What's up, everybody? Molly Van Marth here. I'm an elite online fitness coach, and today I've got my client Meredith 𝘄𝘀 here with me, and I just wanted to ask Meredith some questions as far as what it's been like so far with us working together, some of her progress that she's seen so far, even just within the first 3 weeks of us starting her custom program. And then honestly, I think Meredith articulates really well what it feels like to try other diets that haven't worked before, and then to work with someone like me who's going to be able to walk you through the truth of what you need to know in order to get into the shape you want to be in. So Meredith, first of all, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into some of the other stuff.
Hey, my name is Meredith 𝘄𝘀. I'm a Chief Strategy Officer for a multi-state operation. I deal with marketing, branding, strategizing, accounting, anything business related, buying, selling, starting companies, developing them, lots of business development, lots of meeting people, learning about their personalities and how to grow and develop them as well as the company that they are working for. And I have started working with Molly, I guess, for about 3 weeks now. And I was trying to find a sustainable diet approach to my busy work life, because I was like, okay, it looks like all of her clients are busy, on the go, top performers, as you would say. And like, I just felt like that was my classification, like, how can I do something that's sustainable, because my job's not going to change. So I don't want to make my diet not fit, do something temporary that doesn't fit into like what I'm trying to do, which is kind of what I was doing in the past, which is counterintuitive and seems really stupid when you say it out loud. But I feel like a lot of people get stuck in that, they try to change their diet to not fit around their lifestyle, and that just isn't realistic. I'm also a new mom. I have an 8-month-old son, and so that's been an interesting dynamic for the last year of 2020 in the COVID pandemic. So just lots of different things going on, and I wanted to figure out a new approach because things I was trying on my own weren't working. And in the business that I'm in, if we as a company can't figure something out, we hire experts to help us navigate those problems. And so I started looking at my personal problem with a business approach. Fortunately, I'd never thought about doing that before. I guess I just thought I could do it on my own. But the more I stepped back and looked at it, like I said, in a more business objective approach, what would I do in my business if I was running into this issue? I would hire an expert to help me navigate the problem. And so that's what I've done in my personal life. And just in a very few short amount of weeks, Molly has given me some tools to get my personal goals in alignment with where I want to be in the future. And I'm already seeing a ton of results.
What have you seen happen so far? Like, in terms of, if we're looking at pounds, how much weight have you lost in 3 weeks of us working together?
I'm down about 6 pounds.
Hey guys, Molly here. I wanted to actually hijack this interview and show you guys an updated picture of Meredith's progress. When I recorded this interview a while back, she was only 3 weeks into her program and had already lost 6 pounds. And what you're looking at here is a 4-month transformation where she's dropped 17 pounds. So I think it's important to show you guys what it's like in the beginning, where fantastic progress is definitely possible, and a lot of my clients see great results in the beginning. But it's also important to see what you can do when you go past the 10 or 12 week mark, and how awesome Meredith is doing. Clearly, obviously, her legs look great, her arms look great. You can tell it in her face. Like, she's just made incredible changes overall. And yeah, just wanted to show you guys sort of an update, and now we can get back to the interview.
Which I did not expect to lose that much this quickly.
Over the holidays.
Yeah, over the holidays, and while quarantined for a couple of those weeks with my family. We all had COVID, which was a very interesting time to navigate. But I didn't want to just sit there through the holidays and through, a mandated quarantine because we had COVID, and continue on this path that wasn't me. I wanted to figure out a way to see results, see changes, and get myself back to not necessarily even the old me, but the version of myself that I envision for my future.
And also looking at who you are. I love it when people like you come to me because, you know, it's important, right? Like how you operate as a mom and as a wife and with your job is you are a top performer. You give it your all. And so it's kind of like neat to see when people realize like, okay, I do my best in everything that I do and I perform my best. Okay, what about my body? What about me? And so that's been fun to help. It's almost like just catching your physical self up to who you are as a person, right? So it's fun to help those match up.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the missing link that I saw, which is why I took a step back and I was like, why can't I figure out this problem? I'm a problem solver. That's what I do. And then I was like, but I don't have all the answers. I will never have all the answers in anything. And what do we do in our business when we don't have the answers? We find people who do. And whether that's just talking to people, asking questions, or hiring someone to help us in the field that they're an expert in, which is why I reached out to you. So I think already in just 3 weeks, I've learned a lot. You know, I've done lots of different diets. I'm sure many people have. I've been in cycles of restricting a lot and then binging because I'm starving. Obviously, that's an unhealthy cycle.
Yeah.
Constant cycle, constant problem. For several months, I was very strict paleo to the point that I would not go out to dinner with my friends. I would sit at home afraid to go out and eat because there's nothing there that I could eat. I've done Whole30, several rounds of Whole30. I think I've done about 4 rounds of Whole30. And also, like, in between those rounds, there would be periods of time, like during the week, you know, my husband and I would only eat Whole30 meals, like, and do things like that. But, you know, I don't regret those rounds of different diets because I did learn from them. And also those experiences have made me see that it's not sustainable. You can't live in a hole, and especially in a job where I'm always out and about and traveling and working with different people and meeting different people. I can't hide, you know, just to lose weight. So even just in the short amount of time working with you, you've really just given me the tools that I needed. You know, here's some calorie ranges to stick in. You know, here are some macro goals to hit. And other than that, there are no rules. I mean, obviously, to hit those goals, you know, it's a natural set of rules and progression, but you can budget for things and figure it out along the way. And that's just been super helpful and has actually made my life a lot easier. And, you know, once you get used to tracking and seeing the data, you know, first of all, I'm excited at least because I'm like, oh, okay, where am I now? And I can look at it daily and make adjustments, but also it does give you freedom. If you know that you've got something busy going on later on in the week, you just plan for it. But it's easier to plan for it this way than it was to plan for like a very intense round of Whole30 or strict paleo or whatever else it was that I was doing. Those are much more complicated to plan for than this is.
Mm-hmm. Especially for someone who loves data, which is you're my people, right? Like data lovers are my people, because that's honestly the fastest way to be successful with this stuff, because it's a science, right? Like we're dealing with the science of the human body and how it responds to food and fitness. So if you're someone who's willing to look at data, that tells me you can be successful with this. But I know hearing you talk about how other diets you had tried before taught you a lot about healthy foods, but they didn't give you the number one, you know, the few targets that you really need to know for your body that are going to make a difference in your weight, that are going to help you actually lose weight. It's almost like they were withholding information from you. So it's kind of like they were distracting you, showing you like all these things about healthy foods, and that's great. So you have that great foundation, but I almost feel like sometimes when people don't get the truth about calories and macros and just some of the basic numbers that you need to know as far as targets you need to hit, it puts you at a disadvantage and it makes it harder. And then when you discover those numbers, it's like you're saying, you're like, it's so simple. Like there's some really good information that you were missing before, to where that's been a huge reason why you've made this.
I feel like I've just done a lot of more complicated diets that are harder to fit into my busy lifestyle. I know it's very cliche, but you know, I'm on the go all the time. I travel for work. I'm, you know, never sitting in one place. And to do something like paleo or Whole30 for long periods of time is really, really hard to do when you are traveling and, you know, you're on the go. Literally, I've had a cooler in my car before of like whole compliant foods, and that's fine, but it's just a lot harder. This is much easier, and you can be anywhere and do it.
I remember the text that you sent me. You remember that one day where you hit like a new record low for your weight, and you were telling me about what you were able to fit in the night before that you would have never been able to.
Yeah, it was crazy. I've lost like 6 pounds total on the program already, and I had wine the night before. I had like maybe bread or pasta, some kind of carb that I would never have let myself had. I've like in the past I would get on these cycles where now, and I've seen that now that you've given me the tools to see that, I would either not be eating near as many calories as I would need for several days, and then obviously I was starving, so then I would go way over on calories, you know, for 2 or 3 days to make up for all the stuff I was missing the several days before that. So it was like a constant cycle. Now that I have the tools and knowledge that, okay, this is kind of my budget, as we talk about. I love goals. I love budgets. I love tracking data and analysis and things like that. So now it helps me better plan. Okay, I know that I've got to travel today and I'm probably going to have to eat out at a restaurant. So this is what I'm probably going to have for lunch. And then I build breakfast and dinner around that. You know, in business, you can't run a business if you don't know the numbers of your business daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. If you don't know your targets, you're not going to have a very successful business, and you're not going to know where you're going. Well, that applies to this too, but why have I never looked at it that way before, until I started working with you? And then obviously it makes sense. I've seen a fair amount of success in a very short period of time. Well, I can equate it to business. You can run a successful business if you know what your daily numbers are, where you're trying to go, what your goals are, where you're trying to get to. It's the same thing. So
yeah, that's a great analogy. I love that. Yeah, you got to know your KPIs for sure. You're not someone who needs help with being motivated to put in work, right? Like, you're naturally a hard worker and you naturally give things your all. But I think one of the big lessons with watching someone like you go from trying really hard and sort of suffering through things like Whole30 or strict paleo to what we do with flexible dieting and just looking at some general ranges you need to be within with certain targets. It's a good example of knowledge beats effort every time. So the game is really like, can you get your hands on the right knowledge, and can you learn what the priority things are for you to know about your body and what you need to be aiming to hit, you know, nutrition wise. That goes for workouts too, but you know, all the effort in the world without the right knowledge won't get you to where you want to be. But when you've got the right knowledge, a lot of times it's like you're saying, when you compare it still takes work, but when you compare it, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more practical, I think is a good word, you know, and more sustainable too. So it's people find success when they are ready to invest in an expert to walk you through this, to give you the knowledge that you need to know, as opposed to just plugging into some cookie cutter program or some really extreme diet to make sure that you're trying as hard as you possibly can and putting in as much effort as you can. That's not something that really gets you to your goals. And I think that can be hard too sometimes, because I know, you know, with people who just strive really hard in general and like to work really hard, sometimes it seems like something where you're putting in a lot of effort would be the answer, but the answer is getting your hands on the knowledge that you need to know about your body and about what you need to be eating. That's what's going to get you success and sustainable success, to where it's not temporary. But it's hard.
For years, I've been in this distorted thought process that, yes, if I work way harder, okay, I'm not working hard enough, just keep working harder and you're going to get there and you're going to figure it out. Not necessarily always the case. I feel like now we're working a lot smarter, and it's definitely not harder. It's easier than most things that I've done. I've read a million diet, nutrition, fitness books over the years, tried so many different things, and you can read all these things, but there's so much information out there, you just don't know what to believe or what not to believe, and it just gets super confusing. So yeah, it seems obvious, like hire an expert to tell you and to help you. And I mean, I've hired, a trainer in the gym in the past, and he did help me a lot. I learned a lot from a fitness strength perspective, but he wasn't able to help me with my diet specifically because we were working in a gym, and I know that there's some legalities there. So this is just an overall approach. And when I first started talking to Molly, I thought, well, I already go to the gym and I've done this for 5 years. Like it's the hardest workout in Nashville. So I don't need help with that. But that's not necessarily true either, because once again, I was working harder, but I wasn't working smarter. So now I'm incorporating my gym membership still, but I'm also incorporating Molly's workouts as well. And I do see already like a difference. And like I said, it's not harder. It's probably easier than what I was doing before, but I feel like I'm already seeing better results in a very short amount of time.
So I guess what would you say if someone was, sitting here going, okay, I know life's a little crazy. A lot of times people do have families. A lot of people that I work with, have jobs where they're working 16-hour work days. If they were wondering whether it's worth jumping in or not, what would you tell someone who's maybe on the fence?
I think I would say, first of all, being a new mom and navigating that during a pandemic has been a very interesting mind game at times. And this has given me something else to focus on, focus on something for me, because I do invest so much time and energy into my work life. And then being a new mom, I invest so much time into that. This has given me an outlet for myself and myself only, but it already has not only shown me results, but even my husband the other day was like, wow, this just seems to be like a really positive thing for you. Like you seem really happy and you're just excited, like it has definitely given me something else to focus on. That's very much a positive in kind of this negative COVID world right now. And I was on the fence about whether I should start while I was in quarantine with COVID and while recovering from COVID, I should say, and while the holidays were going on. And talking through that with Molly, I'm so glad that I made the decision to start when I did in quarantine and during the holidays, because I saw progress as opposed to losing any progress that maybe I'd had before the holidays. So that was definitely a great decision. And now I'm excited because, whatever happens in 2021, which I think we're all a little fearful of after 2020, I know that at least this I can control, and I'm doing it for me. And I've seen a lot of positives from it already. So it's really been a bright spot in the end of my 2020 year and the beginning of my 2021 year.
Aw, well, that's all really good stuff. And yeah, you have a good point with, I think people do worry about jumping in the middle of, a lot going on. And again, you're like, okay, we've got the holidays coming up. Does this make sense to do right now? But, January has rolled around, and instead of having additional weight gained throughout the holidays, you were able to enjoy the holidays, and you're starting ahead. You're already ahead, so you're starting this year off on a good leg for sure. And I really enjoyed working with you. I'm sure that if you have made progress over the past crazy month, that you've got a lot of good stuff up ahead still. So Thanks so much for your time. I know you're busy and you're on the go, clearly.
But today.
Yep, you're on the go. So anyway, thanks so much for your time, and I'll be back on here again soon.